Greetings, I'm William Vasvary, chef instructor here at the Community College of Philadelphia. And here we're filming another session of the Chef's Cook. Today, we're going to do crepes. Crepes are actually thin pancakes. The big difference between a pancake recipe and a crepe recipe, only one item, a leavening agent. So in the case of when you're making pancakes, you have eggs, you have flour, you have butter, you have milk, and you also have either baking powder or baking soda. When you're making crepes, you have eggs, you have flour, you have milk, there's no leavening agent. And that's why the crepe stays nice and lean and smooth, and it doesn't rise at all. I'm going to show you today how to make hortobád palacinta, and I should say palacinta is Hungarian for crepe. Hortobád region of Hungary, this dish is a very famous dish, the same way if you had Hungarian stuffed cabbage or Hungarian goulash. We're going to do that today. We're also going to do a spinach and mushroom crepe. We're going to do a sweet cheese palacinta, or sweet cheese crepe, with some ricotta cheese, some raisins. And finally, we're going to do a traditional crepe Suzette. The history of crepe Suzette was a bunch of noblemen were having dinner. Somebody ignited this one dish, and unfortunately, while the room was ablaze with the dish itself, they thought the product was ruined. It wasn't. They tasted the sauce. It was an orange sauce with sugar, caramelized, and also had some Grand Marnier. When they tasted it, they said, wow, this is really great. So once again, the nobleman who actually caused the accident that set the dish on fire wanted to name it after one of the young ladies he was with. Her name was Suzette, hence Crepe Suzette. And also, as another oddity, February the 2nd is Crepe Day in France. So if you happen to be over there, you can enjoy free crepes in most of the restaurants. So I'm going to get started. Some of the things you need a mixing bowl, but one of the things that I've noticed, if you want to make crepes the right way, you could use a small non-stick frying pan, but the problem is the sides are too high. You want to get yourself a good crepe pan, all right? Now this one here ran about almost like $30, but it's anodized. It's a very good, it's non-stick, okay? It heats up really fast, and when I make my batter and I put it in, you'll see how I can swirl it right around. It makes very good crepes. One of the things I will say, if you get a really good quality crepe pan, I tried a few times this week brushing butter on it. No, you don't need any butter. You don't need any oil at all. All you need is the crepe batter itself. I can make crepes in just about, I'm going to show you, in just about 2, not even 3 minutes. You can just bang them out. So here's what we're going to do. We need, all right, we have our mixing bowl. Okay, we have eggs. All right, some salt, my milk. One other thing I should say behind me, I mise en placed everything out. So this way, when you're in the kitchen, you don't have to stop and run for something. All you have to do is just put everything in place first, and you continue cooking non-stop. I also have some sea salt, and I have a flour sifter. Basically, what I want to do is I'm going to get the recipe itself. Calls for 4 cups, actually 4 eggs, and it's going to be 2 cups of flour, all-purpose flour. So I'm going to put that right into the sifter. There we go. All right. Now, what does the sifter do? It actually aerates the flour. So if it's any kind of clumps or anything, it's going to make a smoother batter for you. There we go. All right. As you can see, I'll put this right back here now. Okay. It's going to have it's nice and airy, nice batter. The next thing we want to put in is some salt. All right. And it costs about half a teaspoon. All right, that's in. Next, we're going to put in our eggs. In this case here, we want eggs separated, so what I'm going to do, I just want the yolk part. Now, if I put the whole egg in, what happens is it's not going to have that nice yellow color. So if I just put the yolks in, it's going to have a nice rich yellow color, and that's what you want for eye appeal. All right, 1 yolk. That's 2. There we go. 3. Finally, here's the 4th one. It's a good idea that when you're doing any kind of production in the kitchen, in this case here, I want everything to be as close as it can to room temperature. I really don't want anything too cold. It won't go into solution. So basically, if you get something that's all the same temperature, it's a lot easier to mix. Okay? So now what we have is our egg yolks. All right? We have our salt, our flour. So I'm just going to mix up the yolks a bit. And now what I need to do is I'm going to put in 3 cups of milk. Now, the other thing I should say about the milk, if you find that your batter is too thick for you, just add some more milk. When I did this recipe earlier in the week, I used 3 cups of milk. It was okay, but I wanted something a little thinner. So I put in another ½ a cup of milk, which I'm going to do right now. Based on my experience, here we go. That's there. Now, I'm going to mix up. All right, you can see the batter itself. It takes a little while to mix up. And you can see that little bit of yellow in there already. Okay, you want to get a nice smooth batter. Crepe batter is not like pancake batter where it should be thick. It's going to be watery. Once you go to put it on the crepe pan, it should flow and you can swirl it right around. What you don't want to do is you don't want to create a lot of foam. Okay? You just want to mix it together. So I'm using a wire whisk, stainless steel bowl, and you can take a look. It's pretty much right there, nice and smooth. But just to make sure, like I said, I'm going to strain it. So I have another mixing bowl, and I have a regular household strainer. Okay, I'm going to just pour the batter through. There we go. Now this assures me I'm going to get really, really nice, smooth crepes. Consistency. All right, now what I can do with my whisk, I'm just going to, you can see I'm going to force the rest of the batter through. Now what do I have left? If you can take a look, you can see we have bits of flour that didn't go into solution, the Chalazai cords, but anything here, it's solid, I don't want that in my crepes. So now my crepe mixture is nice and smooth. So, put that away. Now, I'm using a stovetop. This is butane stove. Okay, it's going to take about 2-3 minutes for it to heat up. Now, what's going to happen? All right, I'm using a 2-ounce spatula. As you can see, look at how nice and smooth the batter is. Okay, I'm going to let that heat up. What determines, now this is a 10-inch crepe pan, so what determines the size of the crepe? Well, the amount that I'm going to put in. If I was using a 4-ounce ladle, I would probably fill out this whole pan. 2 ounces, the way it swirls, probably about 3/4. It'll give me a nice size crepe. If I were using, let's just say, a tablespoon or a serving spoon, it would be smaller yet. So that determines the size, okay? In anything you do with cooking, you want to be consistent. So in this case here, a 2-ounce ladle, okay, and it's going to be perfect. Now, I also, when the crepes, as I'm making the crepes, I don't want to pile them on top of each other. What I want to do is I want to have the crepes. Okay, I can put 4. I'm going to have this sheet pan. I'm going to put the crepes 4, and then I'm going to put another piece of parchment. This way I can let them cool, because the next step is going to be to make the fillings. Third thing I'm going to do is roll them up. We're going to heat them up in the ovens, and the last thing is going to show you how to plate them up. So very good. Let's try. All right, once again. All right, here's a 2 ounces of crepe mix in the middle. Now, the trick is you want to swirl it around. Okay, you want to get as round a crepe as you can. Now, there's another tool I'm going to show you. Okay, this is a crepe. This is a crepe spatula. It's wooden, it's thin, and I can get right underneath the crepe. Here's one, another type of spatula. It's this is heat resistant if I wanted to use this. Now, because this is a non-stick pan, I don't really want to use any metal on it and scratch the surface. The wood won't scratch the surface, and neither will this spatula. So, as you can see, it's beginning to bubble for me. Now, what you can do, you lift the crepe up, turn it right over. All right, nice color. It's going to get, the first one usually takes a little bit of a practice, but it's going to be, you see how it's sliding around for me? That's just what I want, okay? So by the time I go for my second crepe, all right, it's going to be perfect. Now you just slide it, look at it, it slides right off, as you can notice. Look, non-stick. So we're just going to keep on going, making crepes. And then we'll let our crepes cool, and we're going to turn around and show you how to make some fillings. All right, these are going to be beautiful. Even though these crepes are very thin, they'll have a little toughness to them in terms, not when you chew it, but actually when you go to roll it up, they won't fall apart. They look flimsy, but actually they're going to hold together very, very well, which is what we want. And once again, look at that beautiful batter. Nice and thin. I'm going to do 2 more after this, and I'm going to show you what it looks like if you burned it or you ruined it. And you don't want to do that, but I'll show you what it looks like. In my bake shop class, whenever we're doing anything, I always make it a point to ruin something. Say, okay, you overmixed it. This is what it's going to look like. All right. And one picture is almost worth like 1,000 words there, because they remember that and say, okay, chef, you're right. You know, that's what you don't want to do. All right. Another piece of parchment. There we go. If you have to, once in a while, if you see a little bit of the dough, the batter itself builds up on your crepe spatula. When I purchased this, it also came with a small piece of sandpaper. So if you did want to clean it up, you can just use the sandpaper, and you can just keep it nice and smooth, and it removes any kind of particles that are on here, because if they had a couple, let's say a couple pieces of hardened batter, when I went to go underneath the crepe, it just might bruise it or rip it, and that's what I don't want. All right, there we go. All right, perfect. All right. All right, here's the last one right here. Now, this one I'm going to ruin, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Once it's done, you only need less than 30 seconds when you flip it over. If you let it go too long, it'll burn, and that burn taste, even if you rolled it the opposite and you tried to hide it by putting the burn part inside, it's not going to work, okay? You got to keep that in mind. When you burn anything, any kind of sauces, gravies, that taste, you just have to start again. There's no way of getting rid of it. All right. So look at that. Nice, beautiful color. And you can also smell it burning, and that's not a good sign. So let's just say, oh, I forgot about it. Geez, I have to get something out of the refrigerator. I'm letting it go, letting it go, letting it go. It's going to get too dark. And you can see at one point it's going to start to smoke because I've overcooked it. Let's see. Around the edges, I'll show you, it starts to get too dark. Let's see. All right, that's what it should not look like, because it's on the point where all of those little blemishes, it's burned, and you can even smell that it's burned. So that's what you don't want to do. That's an overcooked crepe. Like I said, that was longer than 30 seconds, so that's not what you want. All right, so we'll put that, I'll put that on the side for now, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the crepes right over here in the cart, on the speed rack. I'm going to let them cool down, and now we're going to continue. I'm going to show you how you're going to make the stuffing, the fillings. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to put together the hortobad palacinta, or the chicken. And what I need for that, I need a saute pan. Okay, I can put my crepe pan on the side. Now, what I did, the ingredients that I need for that, I need some chicken. I have some onions. I have some olive oil that I'm going to put together. The other thing I'm going to use later on, I have my spices, and I also have some broth. So the first thing I want to do, I should say this much with the chicken, I use thigh meat. The recipe calls for using chicken breast, but to me the breast doesn't have enough flavor. The thigh meat does. So what I did was I had garlic salt, celery salt, pepper. I cooked the chicken, okay, bone in the oven for about 25 minutes at 300 degrees. Pulled it out, let it cool, and then what I did, I just stripped all the meat off the bone. I chopped it up a bit so it was bite size. You can't have really big chunky pieces. And a little bit over here, if you can see the dark spots a little bit, that's the pan drippings. I also caught that from the sheet pans when I put them in. I put them into my chicken mix for more flavor. So once I put it in with my onions, it's going to be perfect. It's going to give me extra flavor. And I don't have to worry. The last thing I'm going to do is I'll taste it, and I'll see what kind of seasoning it needs. So for onions, these are 2 medium-size Vidalia onions, okay? So once again, I'm going to turn my stove on, heat the oil up. Now, when you put the oil in, it's kind of viscous, okay? As it heats up, it should thin out and be like water, so I can actually swirl the oil right around the pan. Okay, it's still got a ways to go. And at that point, I can put the onions in. They should start to sear. Now, the chicken is already cooked. All I want to do is heat it up. The onions are raw, so I have to cook the onions. I'm going to introduce the chicken to it with a little bit of fat. I'm going to put in a little bit of stock, and then I'm going to use a little flour to thicken up the mixture, so this way it won't fall apart when I make my crepes and roll them in. Now, let's see. Okay, if you can see right now, see how there's a little bit of a sheen, all right? And you can see how the oil itself is almost like liquid or water. That's what you're looking for. So now, I get my handy dandy spoon. Ah, there we go. It has that nice sizzle to it. That's what we're looking for. Now, I like using Vidalia onions because that little bit of a sweet flavor. It's a lot easier to use, number one, to use that. A lot of times with regular white or yellow onions, they're too bitter, too harsh. But it's this particular dish, when I make the sauce, it's going to be heavy cream, garlic salt, celery salt, also a little heavy paprika, and it's going to have a little sweetness to it. Okay, that's the beauty of this particular dish. Okay. There we go. It's coming along good. Ah, these onions smell good. All right, this is coming along very well. All right, this is my paprika. So I want to get flavor wherever I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle some paprika here on my onions. All right. Now, does it change the little color of the onion. Look at that. All right. So, boy, if you were here in the kitchen with me, you could smell that nice paprika flavor. All right. Beautiful. This is just what we want. All right. That's looking good. Now, I'm going to put a little stock in. Deglazes the pan a bit, and it'll also give a little bit more moisture to my chicken. There we go. Perfect. Now we're going to put the chicken in. Oh boy, it's cold. There we are. Perfect. There we are. So once again, the only thing I'm going to do is actually heat this up. I don't have to cook it. I did that. That's part of the prep, I should say. To try and do this all in one day is kind of tough because you'd have to cook the chicken. You'd have to cut the chicken. And besides that, to me, I always like it when I can let the food set overnight. So I know this is going to be jam-packed with flavor because it actually marinated in its own juices overnight. Whereas if I just made it, or I used, like I said, the recipe, let's say it called for chicken breast, there's not much flavor in that. So by using the thigh meat, seasoned, I let it set overnight, this is going to be quite the dish. All right, steaming really nice. Now if I were to put this in, see how loose it is? It would fall out of my crepe. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do, a little trick. You can use, there's flour and then there's super fine flour. This happens to be Wondra flour. Okay? This is super fine. Flour is a starch. Starches, especially flour, they absorb 5 times their weight in water, or 5 times whatever. So in this case here, by me using this Wondra, all the extra moisture that's in here, it's going to thicken this up. Okay? Think of an elevator with 3 or 4 people in it, and they'll come right back and put about 20 or 25 people. What happens? Everybody's tight. Why? Because you've just sucked up all the space. So the Wondra flour is actually collecting up all the extra moisture, and this is going to get nice and thick. Now, I just put a little in. This is something where there's no set amount. You just have to play with it. As you can see, all right, there's not too much liquid in here, all right? It's starting to get thick. It's going to continue to get thick. So right now, off goes the heat. I'm going to take it off, put it on the side, and let it cool down. And when we go to fill our crepes, it's going to be perfect. All right, so on the side it goes. All right, now, that's one hot filling. Now we're going to work on the spinach. So once again, there we go. I want to heat up my pan. I'm going to put in a little, once again, olive oil. Now, we're going to cook the mushrooms. I used the combination of porcini for flavor, and I also used some button mushrooms. Now, a lot of my students, the first thing is, oh, I don't like the mushrooms. They're yucky, they're too soft, they're mushy, they have no flavor. And I tell them, oh, you're eating the wrong kind of mushroom. White mushrooms don't have much flavor, and yeah, they are mushy. They don't have much mouth feel. Kinesthetic sensation, I guess what the physiologist would say. One of the things you want to do is just get away from just like the regular white mushrooms. You can use criminis, you can use a portobello, you can use baby bellis, any of those mushrooms, okay? Someone in my class said, Chef, they taste like dirt. No, the quality and the definition is earthy. It picks up those nice, strong flavors, and that's what you want in a mushroom, because you got to remember, if it's in the flavor in the mushroom, it's all going to impart that nice, strong feeling and taste in your food. Now, mushrooms, by nature, they have a lot of moisture. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cook these down, all right? And as these cook down, they're actually going to shrink because the moisture is going to be cooked right out of it. And you'll see I have, you can see the whole pan. By the time I get done, probably I have half a pan of mushrooms, all right? Now, there's a couple of other things I can do as well. If I wanted to, I could put in some, I could usually put in just some water. But for extra flavor, and because I have some extra, I'm going to put in, once again, some poultry stock. You can see that those mushrooms are wet, all right? And that's because we're cooking the water right out of them. All right. Here we go. Okay. As you can see, they're coming along very well. Now, I will put a little stock into it. There we go. Now, the last thing I have to put into my mushroom stuffing is going to be my spinach. I use baby spinach. All right. Now, just the heat alone will cause the spinach itself to wilt. I don't have to do anything extra to it. A lot of times, some folks, what they'll do is they'll try and wilt the spinach first. They'll blanch it in water. But my thought process and theory is this. If you blanch it in water, it's going to lose flavor. And all it's going to taste like is green nothing in your dish. So what I'm doing is when I put the spinach in here, as the spinach juices, it blanches, it's going to fill right in. It's going to give extra flavor to my dish. All right, you can see that. Look at how that's bubbling real nice. Okay, so now you can see how much the mushrooms have thinned down. All right, now what I did with the spinach, it was big leaves. And as you can see, what I did was I took a knife to it and I wanted to make shreds. So this way, it's going to roll up better, and it's going to evenly disperse into my mixture. All right. Okay, just going to continue to cook this. There we go. Now I'm going to do the same with this that I did with the chicken mix. I'm going to take some Wonder flour, and I want to thicken it up so it's going to be nice and tight. You could actually, if you wanted to, put an egg into this, but to me, I'd rather go with the Wonder flour and keep the taste of the mushrooms and the spinach itself. And it'll make, actually to finish this off, well, if there's a dish we make in Culinary, it's mushroom Duxelle. We take some shallots or some onions, we saute them up, and we cook the mushrooms, and we finish off the dish with some heavy cream, all right? And it makes a nice stuffing. If you ever had the dish that it's known for, beef Wellington, okay? They have a mushroom Duxelle that they wrap around a tenderloin, then they put it in puff pastry. So for this dish here, you can see how it's, look at how that nice, the spinach went right into solution. Okay, so when I put some heavy cream into this, let's see. All right, and then I'm going to put some more Wonder flour. It's going to make a nice binding mixture. And the last thing I just have to do is season it up. I'm going to use some garlic salt, celery salt, and a little bit of black pepper. That'll make a nice stuffing for me. Okay, heavy cream. A little bit in. Okay. Now, the heavy cream is going to mix with my other stock. As you can see, nice white sauce. I'm going to continue to let that mix. Oh boy, smells good. Nice earthy aroma of the mushrooms, spinach. And you can see, okay, the little bit of the cream itself is turning a bit green from the spinach. I'm going to let that heat up. Come back, and once again, put some more Wonder into it. Now, two things are going to thicken this, the Wonder flour, and the other thing is the reduction of the cream. As you're boiling a liquid, you're actually getting the excess moisture out. So what does that mean? The substance is going to thicken up. Now this is already heavy cream. Okay, so it's heavy enough. But now, you can see how it's bubbling up. Let's see, here we go. It's going to make a nice thick mixture for us. Now, you can see quite a difference from what we started out. Look at that. It's going to make a nice filling for me. So, the only thing left to do, turn it off. Now I'm going to season it up. We'll put in a little pepper. I'm using black pepper. You can use white. If you do use white pepper, have to watch how much you use because it's a lot stronger than black pepper. Okay. Little celery salt for flavor. There we go. And my other favorite, I like using garlic salt. I like using flavored salts better because you do get a lot more flavor than just regular salt. So we'll put a little garlic in. Perfect. All right, that's that. Now here we go. Let's stir it up. All right, look at that. Just what we want. A nice, thick sauce. Just what we want for our crepes. So now, we'll let this cool down. Put it on the side. Okay. 2 fillings down. 2 more to go. So now what we're going to do is the next one we're going to make is a sweet cheese filling. So it actually, all I'm going to do is combine some ricotta cheese with some sugar and some egg for binder. All right. So once again, the recipe itself calls for 2 cups of ricotta cheese. I can measure it or I can just eyeball it. And because of my experience, I'm going to eyeball it. And I can just figure out how much we need. Let's see. Let me get my paring knife. Go right around the edge. Here we go. Here we are. Little piece of plastic, I'll get rid of that. We don't want to get that wound up in the food. So now, I'm going to take my spoon. I also have, for this particular sweet cheese palatine, we're going to put in some golden raisins. So I'd say that's about, I'm going to use half the container. All right? And it basically, you know, even though this contains a raw egg, all right, not to worry, because what we're going to do, all right, there my raisins go in. We're going to heat this in the oven 15 minutes at 300 degrees. So what's going to happen is the egg will cook, and it's not as if you're eating raw egg in a filling. Now, the other thing I'm going to put in here, I'll get the egg first. Let's see my egg. Okay, 1 whole egg. The egg is going to bind up. Whether you're making a dessert with the ricotta cheese or if you were making, let's say, lasagna, if you were to put the cheese in by itself, it's going to bleed out, it's going to soften up. So you need something that's going to keep it together. Now, what's better than an egg? You could use, well, you don't want to use roux or any kind of flour, but you're going to use the egg itself. It has a lot of protein, and it mixes well with the cheese, as you will see. And it's going to have some nice binding qualities. Now, it also, as you can see how the mixture's loosening it up, but it's going to be okay, because once we put the heat to it and put it in the filling, it's going to tighten right up. Now, the only thing left I have to put in here is the sugar. So I'm going to put in, recipe calls, let's see, for about 2 tablespoons. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are teaspoons, 5. So we're going to use 5 teaspoons. All right, I'll put this back. I don't need any salt. I don't need any other pepper. This is all I need for my mix. Now, it's picking up the raisin flavor and the cheese flavor. So now, 3 down, 1 more to go. We'll put this on the side. Now, this last, I should say, recipe is not really a filling. You're actually making a sauce. And in order to do that, what you need, okay, you need some orange zest and juice. You need some lemon zest with some juice, okay? And we're going to actually make a sauce. Now, the crepes themselves, they have a little bit of flavor, but in this dish, I'm going to show you when we finish it off, we're going to fold the crepes up, lay them on a plate, and then the sauce itself is going to be spooned on top. Now, normally, you do the recipe itself, traditionally, it's going to flame up. I have Grand Marnier and I have some Hennessy Cognac, but unfortunately, it's not, it has to have, the liquor you're using has to be at least 100 proof, and neither one of these are, but it's just going to still give us flavor, so that's no problem. Here we go. Okay, we're going to heat our pan up, and one of the things we want to use is vanilla sugar. Okay, we're going to caramelize the sugar. Now this one particular, I should say, this one particular recipe, it's very sweet. I'm using, once again, vanilla sugar. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's about 4 tablespoons. And the idea is you only need a little bit of this syrup on your dish. Now, what I have to do as well is I have to get some orange zest and some lemon zest with some lemon juices in there while the sugar is caramelizing a bit. So here's 2 tools you should have in your kitchen accessories. This first one here, this is called a channel knife. So if I were to cut, let me show you what happens. If I were to cut strips, all right, I could cut strips, but look, that's too thick. So that's not what we want for our sauce. But if I was making, let's say, if you were a bartender and you needed to make some lemon strips, or if you wanted to make some candied orange peel to, let's say, put on a cake, you'd use this. You'd use a channel knife. Now, what I'm going to use today, this is a zester. As you can see, it's got 4 holes. Now watch the difference. I can come across now. Look at those nice little strips. Okay? That's what I want to put into my crepe Suzette sauce. So I take my zester and I just peel it right off. Okay? Now the other thing I'm going to do as well is when I get enough strips in here, I'm going to cut open the orange, and I want to put the juice in as well. That's going to make a big difference. All right? You can see it doesn't take that much time to do this. Okay, I cut my orange, my handy dandy paring knife. Okay, I squeeze. Okay, I want to get as much juice as I can, because that's what's going to make the sauce, as you can see right here. The sugar is starting to caramelize. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the heat until I get more of the juice in. Now, I still have to put some lemon juice in, and I'm also going to put in some cognac and some Grand Marnier. All right, you want to take a look at that. You see how you can see how it's caramelizing. Very nice. I have to stir the sugar with my spoon. Here we go. All right, that's going to come fine for me. So now, All right. When I put the alcohol in and heat it up, it's going to thin it out. Right, now, once again, I want to get a little lemon peel in. I'm going to use my zester. Okay. Now, in this case, too, what you want to watch, all right? Yeah, perfect. There we go. If there's any kind of seeds, you want to catch them in your hand, especially with the lemon. There was nothing in the orange, but in the lemon sometimes you will get a seed or two. And if you can pluck it right out, which I just did. Here's another one right here. Okay, got two of them out, so this way I'm going to have no seeds in my sauce. That's it. Okay, that's done. Now, turn the heat back on. There we go. Continue stirring. What else do I need to put in here? We're going to put in a little cognac. All right. So a little bit. Let me dry my hand first. Okay. Just a tad. We're going to put in more of the Grand Marnier, which is orange flavored cognac brandy. That's enough. Now we're just going to let that reduce. All right. Beautiful. All right. My sugar is going back in the solution. All right. This is going to thicken a bit, and then when I go to put it on the crepes, it's going to be a nice syrup for me. There we go. Okay. Oh, smells wonderful. We have enough of the orange peel. We have enough of the lemon. Nice fragrance. It's going to be nice and sweet. And what we're going to do now, as you can see, it's reducing. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to reduce it too much where it goes back into syrup and it crystallizes. What I want to have it do is just be a nice little bit of a thick sauce for me. It's starting to thicken up. You can tell when you're reducing, especially anything with sugar, it has a nice, these bubbles on the top, all of a sudden they'll go to like a shiny, a nice sheen to it because most of the moisture is kicked out. And what you have is a nice sauce. Right now it's thin because it's hot, but as I let this cool down, I'm going to shut it off now. As I let this cool down, it's going to thicken up. Okay. So here we are. We have our nice sauce that's going to thicken for us as we let it cool down. And we're going to put that on our crepe Suzettes. So we have our Hortobad mixture. We have our cheese mixture. We have our spinach and mushroom mixture. And we have our sauce for our crepes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can fill the crepes. We're going to heat them up in the oven, 300 degrees for about 5 to 10 minutes just to warm everything, and I'll show you how we're going to plate it up. Okay, so we're going to let this set on the side and cool as well. So going back to the original filling, let me get rid of my stove. Put this on the side. Let's bring the chicken back into play. All right, now as you can see, look at this. See how nice and thick that is? That's just what we want. It's not too syrupy, it's going to be perfect. So we're going to take I'm going to use a quarter sheet pan. Okay. Now I happen to have plenty of crepes. So we're going to go back to our original, here we go. And I'm going to show you how you're going to fill it. Let me just clear the deck a little bit. Now what I'm going to do with I want to make sure that the crepes don't stick. So I'm just going to use some pan spray. Okay, if I put parchment down, chances are I won't be able to lift it up. So basically what I'm going to do now is I can roll up the crepe when I put the filling into it. Now I can have, I want to use not the lighter side of the crepe. I want this to be on the inside because that nice dark appearance is going to be much, much better. So what I do is I'm going to take some filling, all right, and in this case, you want to go right across. There we go. Fill it up. Now, the idea is when I roll it up, I'm going to tuck a little bit, and I'm going to keep on rolling, okay? And I want to put, this is the seam side, I want the seam side down, okay? And as you can see, it's pretty much, it's nice and straight. You get the idea. You'll notice how the crepes too, see how they're nice and, you know, they're nice and flimsy. That's exactly what you want. And you can take your spoon and get a nice dollop of the mix. And you want to spread it out so it's even. Yeah. It takes time to do this, but in the long run, it's well worth it because you can see it's going to be very nice when we get through and plate it up. All right, that's 4 of the chicken. I'm going to put that on the side. Now, I'm going to show you how we're going to do. We're going to do 4 of the spinach. Okay. Once again, I want to spray the pan. I have my mix here. See how that thickened up really good? That's exactly what we want. I know we have enough flavor with it. So let's take a palatine, a crepe, put it down. Now with this one, because it's thicker, I'm just going to take about this much, and I know that's going to spread out for me really nice. I won't use a smaller spoon. Right here. Okay, same thing. You want to tuck and roll. Seam side down. We'll do 1 more of these. Okay, that's 3. So now we have our chicken. We have our spinach. Now, we're going to do our cheese. Once again, a little spray. Put this on the side. We have our cheese mixture. Okay. With some raisins. Put a little bit here. All right, there's 1. Two. There's 3. Now, I want to put the crepes in the oven. It's going to heat up for me. We're going to give it about 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, let me get rid of this. So I'm going to put the crepes in to heat them up. And while I'm heating them up, I'm going to show you, I do have more crepes I made. I'll show you what we're going to do with the crepe Suzettes, the sauce. So, once again, we'll give these a few minutes, and it's just what we want. We want to get them warm or plate up. Okay, we have the spinach, we have the cheese itself, and we have the chicken. Okay, now, most of those crepes, you can see, were rolled, all right? But we can do something else. We can actually do, you can actually fold them up. These things are flimsy enough. Fold them in half and fold them in half again. And we're going to put 1 there, all right? Same thing, in half and in half again. And I'm just going to stack about 4 of them on a plate. Okay, that's for our Suzettes. I can put this right here for now. Now, while everything is heating up, what I want to do is I have to get my stove back. I'm going to make a quick sauce to put on top. We already have our sauce for crepe Suzettes, but what I want to do is I want to make a sauce that's going to go on top of our Hortobad Palacinta. So what I'm going to do, there we go. All right, I'm going to put in some heavy cream. All right, this is going to be a quick sauce. All right, that's going to reduce for me. I want to put in a little garlic salt. All right, here we go. And of course, I want to get a nice pink sauce to it. So a pink color, I should say a red color, so we're going to put in some paprika. There we go. Now, I whisk. The hotter it gets, the more in solution the paprika will go. All right, if I have to put some more in, I will. All right, that's going to start to boil, which is good. Put that on the side. All right, we come out. I have 4 plates. Okay. All right. Now, as you can see, our sauce, it's not that warm. It's if it was a little cooler, but we're going to put it on. But here, basically, what you want to do with your crepe Suzettes, we're going to sauce this up. We have our orange zest. There we go. All right. Oh, let's turn that down a little bit. All right, as you can see, it's going into solution. All right, it's going to be a nice sauce when it comes out. I'm going to let that go, and I'm going to pour that over the top. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to garnish that. But anyway, here's our crepe Suzettes. That's number 1. Okay. Beautiful. I'll let that reduce a little bit more. Okay, let me get my glove. Now, beautiful. Our Hortobad Palacinta is looking good. Now, I happen to have a small spatula that I can use. The Palacinta itself is heating up, so what we're going to do is I'll show you. We're going to put 2 on a nice plate. They're warmed up. Okay. We're going to sauce. I'm going to put the rest. Put the rest back in right here. All right. So there we go. Turn that off. Now, okay, nice sauce, nice aroma. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some nice cream sauce all over this. Okay, 2 things it needs, and actually 1 more thing it needs. I'm going to give it a dollop of sour cream. And just for a little green, have a little parsley. And because it's Hortobad Palacinta, we give it a little bit more paprika. There we go. That's 2. Of course, for presentation purposes, we want to make sure that we don't have a mess. Okay, that's 2. Now, these are the spinach and mushroom. Okay. Now, because that's also in a Hungarian dish, I can take some of my sauce here again, and I'm going to use some of the same sauce and put it on the top. It'll go well with the heavy cream and the paprika. Okay, and we'll put a little parsley as well. Okay, and finally, our cheese. Beautiful. Now, because these are sweet, what I'm going to do, let's see, here we go. Yeah. I'll put 3 on the plate. Now, another implement that I have, I can introduce you to. This in particular here, this is this device itself is a shaker, all right? What I can do is I'm going to take some powdered sugar. Okay, it opens up by handle. You open it up, get some powdered sugar, close it up. Okay, then I can use it as, actually it's a duster. So let's put a little powdered sugar right here. Here we go. Here we have it. We have 4 crepe dishes. We have our sweet cheese crepes with powdered sugar topping. We have our spinach and mushroom crepes with a little paprika sauce topping, heavy cream. We have our hortobad palacinta, which is the chicken onions with a dollop of sour cream and also with the heavy cream paprika sauce. And finally, we have the crepe Suzette's traditional. 3 nice dishes. You can use those, 2 for dessert, 2 for dinner, or as an appetizer. So once again, you can see how easy it is to make crepes. You've been watching The Chef's Cook on CCP TV, the educational channel here at the Community College of Philadelphia. I'm Chef Bill. Until next time, have a great day.